The podcast where the mic drops happen. This is the SHAE Mac Show. In advance, thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the SHAE Mac Show. I would like to apologize as your host for the technical difficulties that were dealt with during this recording. So there will be some things that were discussed during the show that unfortunately you guys missed out on, but the important things and a lot of great detail was covered. Introductions, this will be it due to the technical difficulties, but mistakes happen. I promise they won't happen again. We'll have it together by next episode. Once again, thank you and enjoy the episode as I will be joined by my very special guest, Russell Steinberg from ClutchPoints, as he is the beat reporter and writer for your fellow WNBA team, the New York Liberty, as we break down things such as expectations, statistics, players' impacts on the teams, things of that nature. Please tune into this episode to hear what Mr. Steinberg and I, your host, SHAE Mac Sports, has to say. Thanks in advance.
Players around her. She is such an incredibly smart player who I think is a really good influence on the younger players on this Liberty team. Once you start looking at the bench, there are a lot of, rookie second year type players. She is helping them along, I think, tremendously, as that veteran. And as long as she's been in the league, she's still got it. She's still great.
Yeah, Courtney Vandersloot, without question, is definitely the best thing to happen, but one of the best things to happen to the Liberty. But while we're speaking on this, and we're speaking on, let's go back to Breanna Stewart and and their paro. So we definitely talk about her and Sabrina Ionescu duo, but speaking of which, what was you expecting within combined average points of the team and things of that nature?
Yeah, that's tough because you have so many different weapons and they're going to take points from each other. I expected Stewie to be the consistent leading scorer type just because she has that ability to take over a game and she can do it in a lot of different ways. She has that size. She could get inside. She can shoot the three when she has to. She's got an okay mid-range game. She can create for herself. You can run plays for her. I expected her to be that leader, and she, for the most part, has been. There have been also games where Jonquel and Sabrina have done it as well. As far as Sabrina Ionescu goes in terms of scoring, yes, she can fill it up, but she became known at Oregon for the triple doubles, right? I mean, she can be a tremendous distributor, and I figured that would be a little bit more what we saw from her just because of all of the talent around her.
Yeah. So she spent 7 seasons with the Seattle Storm before heading to New York in 2023. So when you heard that she was signing to New York, what was her instant reaction? If you got it, what was her reasons for leaving Seattle after Sue Bird retired and then coming to New York?
Yeah, actually, I remember this very clearly because I was at her introductory press conference, and I don't remember if I was the one who asked, but somebody asked her that exact question. And it came down to, yes, she's a little closer to home. That certainly helps. She's from Syracuse, but also the Tsai family who owns the Liberty were very clear that they wanted to build a WNBA powerhouse. And if you followed Breanna Stewart through the years, you know that growing the league and expanding opportunities for players is extremely important to her. I mean, she was the leading voice behind the chartered flights, right? And now we have them throughout the league in in no small part because of her. So that was extremely important to her. And when the Size bought the Liberty, I wish I remember what year it was. It was around 2019, 2020, I think, maybe a little bit before that. They made it a point, because they also own the Brooklyn Nets. They made it a point to say everything that the Brooklyn Nets have, the New York Liberty are going to have. And they do. I've seen both locker rooms. They share a practice court in Barclay Center. Everything that the NBA team gets, the WNBA team gets. And that, I think, was the biggest factor for Breanna Stewart to come to New York. And I think now we're slowly starting to see other teams follow suit. I listened to that episode you did with the Aces reporter, and she brought up the amazing facilities that they have. They actually, I think, have their own complex now, right?
Yep, they definitely
which
do.
which the Liberty don't have, and the Storm are building one. So you see this arms race now starting to happen, and it's going to attract players. For the Liberty's case, it attracted arguably the best player in the league.
Yeah, definitely did. And we speak about Breanna Stewart. She is your reigning WNBA MVP. So, what would the expectations be for her heading into 2024, or as we are already into 2024 moving forward?
Yeah, I think the expectation for her would be to show that she can perform at an MVP level against the best players in the league. I know I said it before, but in the finals last year, it seemed pretty clear that Asia was the best player on the court. Stewie had her moments, but it was Asia. I think it's taking that level of dominance to the next level for her. There's no question about her talent. She's going to put up the numbers. There's no question that statistically she'll be right up there. Um, I think being able to be the one where you go, okay, tie game, 10 seconds left, who's getting the ball? It's Stewie, and she's going to score. I think being that type of guarantee is what I would love to see from her, just knowing the talent that she has.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Some people argued, I was one of them, that Aja Wilson, should have gotten it last year. And she did show that in the WNBA finals. But on the flip side of it, from an offensive standpoint, I could definitely understand why Breanna Stewart won it. Because one, I don't think since, for a while it has not been done before. And then two, it's like if we did not give it to Aja, we would have gave it to her. Some people would say Joelle Lloyd, which can definitely argue. Some people would have said Alyssa Thomas, correct me. But Breanna Stewart, to me, behind Aja Wilson, is the most complete player that the WNBA has to offer right now. So it's like, it's hard to even argue that, but do you expect her this year to repeat as your WNBA league MVP?
I don't think so. She's had a couple of, and it's still early. I could be wrong. She's had a couple of games where she has struggled offensively. She has not shot as well from three. But then again, I think her defense has been amazing. And that's not something that I guess you really measure with like mainstream statistics. Her and Jonquel Jones together have given the Liberty incredible size and length in the post, that have made it. I mean, you saw it today, made it impossible for the Connecticut Sun. So I don't think she'll end up being the MVP, but she certainly could. And honestly, if you ask her, I'm sure she doesn't care one bit as long as she wins a championship.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But we're going to go back to that a little bit. We mentioned the expectations. So you started to mention a little bit. Some part got missed out, so I apologize in advance. But you mentioned the expectations is WNBA finals or bust for the Liberty. Would that be an accurate standard, or is that a little too harsh and we should give them a little more time?
I I think if they don't make the WNBA finals, there will be a real sense of disappointment just because they made it last year. They bring back the same core. And as of right now, they look like either the best team in the WNBA or the second best at worst. The problem, as I said, is that I feel like every team around them is better. Starting with the Connecticut Sun, who are their biggest competition in the East. The Liberty beat them today, which, that's great for them. Could have just as easily gone the other way. And the Sun are such a good defensive team that it's going to be very hard to get much separation against them in a game, which we saw today. And then, in the West, of course, the Aces are still going to be right there. They can make a finals run. I said the Lynx could make a finals run. The Storm are starting to look really good. And we haven't even really talked about the Mercury yet, who just
Definitely
got
has
Brittany Griner
not.
back. And so there are so many teams who can kind of disrupt that, which is why it's hard to say if they don't get to X round, it's a disappointment. But when you have 2 MVPs in your starting lineup and a number 1 draft pick, that's the expectation. The expectation is the finals and ultimately to win in the finals.
Of course. And we definitely understand why, because we mentioned the talent, we mentioned the big 3. But you want to know the one thing we never saw in the WNBA finals? So say if the Aces does get knocked off the throne, let's just say that. And the Mercury ends up being the team to come out the West because anything can happen in the playoffs. How do you think it would be if we were to see Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, Courtney Vandersloot versus Natasha Cloud, Diana Taurasi, and of course, Brittany Griner in the WNBA finals? Can
It
we
would be
possibly see
incredible.
that?
We could. We certainly could. I mean, we haven't seen the Mercury at their best yet, really, because Brittany Griner's played, I think, 1, maybe 2 games. It would be incredible because you have to think about also the personalities that we get in that series, right? I mean, with what the Liberty bring with New York and kind of the swagger that they have, the reigning MVP, the team that's been there before, the super team, they call them, with Diana Taurasi at 41 years old, going for, 1 last ring. 41 years old and still scoring 30 points as she did the other night. Like,
It's
she's still
crazy.
an incredible player. And we haven't mentioned Kalia Copper. Like, this, the Mercury are loaded.
Oh my God, I forgot they had Kalea Copper. I can't believe. Oh, you know what? I really got to do my research better than I have. I do pretty good research, but obviously not well enough because I actually forgot they had Kalea Copper. I really did because so much talent. I was focusing on Natasha Cloud. I'm focusing on Diana Taurasi, and I'm focusing on Brittany Griner making her rightful return home to the WNBA. That Kalea is actually overlooked. And it's crazy that we are forgetting players who were X factors on other former WNBA final champion teams like the Chicago Sky in the light of Courtney Vandersloot and Kalea Copper.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw the game winner that Copper hit the other night. I think it was against Minnesota. Like, she's awesome. And and she has that championship level experience too, which I think maybe before last year, I kind of underestimated how important experience is in this league. And she's been there, and BG's been there, and Diana's been there, and they're also all unapologetic about how great they are, and it means they are great WNBA personalities. It means for the last 2 decades, Diana Taurasi has been a fantastic WNBA villain for a lot of people, and she
Definitely.
embraces that. And she embraces
Yeah.
that role.
Because her and the
And
Caitlin Clark feud this year.
w- that's a whole thing. It's not even really a feud to me. It's the media making it out to be something it's not. But I would say Angel Reese now is right behind Taurasi in terms of the next villain of the league in line, and she embraces it too. And they're doing it in ways that aren't offensive. They're not, getting into fights. They're not getting in trouble off the court. They're not saying demeaning things about players on other teams. They're just not afraid to say how good they are. And then they back it up. And people have a problem with it, but it's great to see, and it's great for the league.
It's part of the game.
Yeah.
Like trash talking is part of the game. And that's the thing. We beg for women to step the game up. We beg for women to show that they can hang with the guys or they're better than the men. And that yet when we have people like Angel Reese who's not afraid to step up and show us that, we criticize her, and I mean them. They criticize her because I love Angel Reese. I said it before, I say it again. I love me some damn Angel Reese. I think she's an exceptional player. She's definitely a great rebounder. I think they not average, but underestimate her shooting range, her abilities to shoot the ball because she's such a great defensive player. To me, if Angel Reese is in the right system and placed in the right system, we could be looking at the next or one of the next all around best players in the WNBA if this continues.
Yeah, she's not there yet. She hasn't exactly been a very efficient player so far. But you see that the talent is there. And, the thing I really appreciate about Angel Reese off the court is that when she made those comments last week about Caitlin Clark, she knew exactly what was going to happen. And she said it anyway. She knew that people would take her to mean that it was all her and not Caitlin at all, which is not at all what she said. She said it was a bunch of us growing this game, and Caitlin is a part of that, but so am I. That is what she said. And she knew how it would be twisted, but she wanted to get her message out there, and she's absolutely right. The Fever have come into Barclay Center twice now, sold out the place twice. Like, Caitlin, no doubt, has brought so much attention, has been amazing for this league. The second most packed game we've had has been the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese. And you don't often hear, opposing crowds exploding in cheers for opposing players, but they did that for Caitlin and they did that for Angel. And the only other players I've really heard that for are former Liberty players coming back, like, Steph Dolson on the Mystics. So it is Angel. It's Caitlin. It's also Angel. It's Cameron Brink. It's this entire rookie class that has added so much.
Yeah, it definitely did. But we're going to go back to your New York Liberty. We're going to go back to their record because they're currently 10-2. So we speak on expectations and more because it's so much in the WNBA. But so when the season is all said and done and when the playoffs are here, where do you expect the New York Liberty to be ranked overall in the WNBA? And of course, overall in the Eastern Conference, as we already established, they're ranked number 2 right now behind the Connecticut Sun at 10-2.
I think they are going to have the second best record. I think they will be right where they are now. I think they're going to be good enough to be playing at an elite level the entire year. They haven't shown to me yet that they can go on a run and dominate teams. Yes, they have won 6 in a row, and that's great. But they haven't looked incredible doing it. I think they're going to get bit a couple more times. Their bench still needs a little bit more time together. They've gotten better, but we haven't seen prolonged stretches of production from them just yet. I think they're a much better team now than they were a month ago. They're going to be an even better team a couple months from now. It might take 1 or 2 more slip ups, but I've talked to Stewie about this, and I've talked to Sandy Brondello about it. They both kind of said unprompted, we'd rather take those losses now. Show us what we need to do to get better. If it means, our record doesn't look quite the way we want it to for a little bit, fine. Let's get all of this out of the way now. And it's kind of what they did last year, too. It took them a while last year to really play to that super team level. And then second half, they were amazing. So when it's all said and done, they will be near the top of the league. I'll give them the 2 seed, but doesn't really matter to me. I think we see them in the WNBA finals, however they get there.
Okay, makes sense. Definitely makes sense. But we spoke on the talent in the WNBA. We spoke on the talent in, New York on the Liberty, but we didn't speak on this player enough to me who's a fantastic defensive player. So can we get in a little too more into detail about the Jonquel Jones effect, how impactful she has been since joining the Liberty? She is without question the WNBA 2023 Commissioners Cup MVP with the Liberty, as they did win the Commissioners Cup last year, which we established after playing 7 seasons with the Connecticut Sun, who, if I'm not mistaken, she was in the WNBA finals with going against the Aces, who, well, she was defeated by. So she definitely has a thing or two on how to play them. And unfortunately, she was on the other side of that history that the Aces made. But explain her effect, her impact, and how does her with the big two and Ionescu and Stewart make the team better? What do they do to motivate the team? What does she do individually as well?
She has been the most important player on the team this year. In their losses, she has really struggled, and she's been outstanding the rest of the way. She is such a good defensive player. Sandy Brondello likes to say she is the anchor of the defense, and she really is, because the team is starting to play a lot of zone now, and she is kind of the player that really keeps other teams out of the middle. She's got incredible length. She had 4 block shots today. I wish I remembered the stat, but she's on like this amazing streak of block shots, um, which doesn't surprise me. She's a very smart player too. She had a few games earlier in the year where she got into foul trouble and really wasn't much of a factor. She has adjusted, I think, to how games are being called right now. And what makes her so valuable offensively is that she can do just about anything you want her to do. She can be that post presence that you want. You can feed her, and if she gets the ball in position, she's going to score, and you're not going to stop her. But also, like today, she hit 3 threes in the fourth quarter, just because that's what was given to her. She can do anything. And you asked about the effect she has on her teammates. I talked to Niara Sabali about this at a practice a couple of weeks ago. Sabali, I know she's been hurt, but she's kind of that, I guess, the understudy to Jones. So I just asked her about her relationship with Jonquel, and said, Jonquel is always there to answer questions I have. I shoot with her after practice. I shoot with her before games. We go through similar workouts. Like, she is the one that I'm learning from. And you could just tell that Jonquel has the respect of her teammates. Not just from that, but today, I think someone brought up the stat of her. The Sun were 1 for 16 and on shots that she contested today, and someone read off that stat in the press conference, and like Sabrina turned to her and like shook her hand. She has the respect of everybody around her, and she makes the team so much better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Since joining the Liberty, they have became a better defensive team. And it's, you could definitely argue it is with one of the best, if not to me, top 5 of the best defensive players in the WNBA that the league has to offer today. So what will be her mentality as she is unfortunately in the big stage, 0-2 in the WNBA finals? How hungry, from a scale 0 through 10 or 1 to 10, what would you give her hunger rate to bring a WNBA Finals championship one to her own trophy case as well as the Liberty?
I wish I could go higher than 10. I mean, that is what she is dead set on. Um, she obviously, you have to be an incredibly competitive player to be in this league and to be a star in this league, and she is. I feel like she has been overlooked a lot in her career, even as a former MVP. I'm from Connecticut, right? So I used to make this joke when she was playing for the Sun, that more people in Connecticut knew the last player on the UConn women's basketball team bench than knew Jonquel Jones. And I really think that's true. Now she's
Yeah.
in New York, and yes, she has a lot more eyes on her, which is great, but she's also kind of overshadowed a little bit by Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. People don't appreciate her, I think, the way that they should. I think they're starting to now because they've seen how out of sorts this team looks when she's not on the court.
Yeah, I gotta roll with you right there. Like I said, she won MVP of the Commissioner's Cup last year for a reason, and she was and you can argue she was the X factor into why they won it again last year, while they're backing it again this year, defending that Cups title. So it's like, if you're Jonquel Jones, what do you think you would have to do in order to no longer be overlooked, underappreciated by not only those who root for you as you are in New York Liberty, but those in the sports world in general when they speak on women's athletes, especially in the sport of basketball?
She needs the ring. Because if she gets it, she's probably going to do it against Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces. And I don't think the Liberty beat them in a 5-game series without Jonquel Jones having a major effect on both ends of the court. If she does that, then she has completed her resume. She has given you everything you could possibly ask from a player. She has every tool that somebody her size needs, offensively and defensively. She just needs that ring. And if she gets that, then I think that kind of catapults her into that next tier of WNBA stardom. You start, obviously she's, former MVP, perennial all-star, undoubtedly one of the greats. Give her a ring, give her a few more years, you start talking about like Hall of Fame level.
Yeah, definitely. So with all of this being said, what would the expectations be? Like, okay, WNBA finals or bust for the New York Liberty? Yes or no?
Yes, because I think you can't get there like they did last year, keep the core together, and be happy with anything less than that. And I realize that is unfair. That is an unfair expectation to put on a team when, they could easily lose 3 out of 5 to the Connecticut Sun, and that's it. And there's no shame in that. The Sun are an incredible team. So it's not fair. But that is what the SHAE family has invested in. They went out to build this super team. And so they put it together. Now you need to produce. If they lose to the Aces, well, they lost to the other super team. They lost last year too. What are you going to do? If they don't make it, then people unfairly are going to say, well, they regressed. I don't think they regressed. I think it would be a product of other teams around them getting better as well.
Yeah, I gotta agree. So that's all I have for you right now. John, is there anything else you would like to share before we sign off?
Um, I'm sure people who listen already know this, but I'll say it anyway. If you haven't been watching this league, watch it. It is high level basketball, and it is better than it's ever been. I've been watching the WNBA for a long time. The product on the court is better than it's ever been. The fan energy around it is better than it's ever been. And it's just such an exciting time to be a fan of this league. And, get on board now because expansion's coming. There's going to be more opportunities for more players. It's only going up from here.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta agree there. But Russ, that's all I have for you. Thank you once again for joining the SHAE Mac show. If you guys have not, for more coverage on the WNBA, especially within your New York Liberty, please give Russ here a follow on X at Russ_Steinberg, as he will definitely be keeping people like I and other WNBA fans updated with what's going on, especially in the Barclays. Thank you once again for joining the SHAE Mac show.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of the SHAE Mac show. This is your host, SHAE, signing out. Click the follow and subscribe button now for more episodes and to get updates on the show. To view more content from the show, give us a follow on your favorite platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and much more, all at The SHAE Max Show. And you can give me, your host, a follow on those same platforms at SHAE Max Sports.